911, what's the address of the emergency? Hello?
Will you promise me one thing?
What's that?
You're just gonna shoot without no questions.
What's your name, sir?
From room 237, he calls 911.
I just want to say it all.
A stranger tells operators
What's that noise?
Loading my gun,
he intends to die.
and it's a 100% promise. That's just the fact. It's either by your officer's hand or my own.
How concerned are you for the officers that are in the field at that moment?
Absolutely concerned.
Molly McDaniel answers 3 of his 6 calls.
It was clear that he needed help, just by the things that he was saying.
My name's Molly.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Molly.
He tells her, type this into YouTube.
And I pop up immediately with my face talking through the celly port 4.
Let me see.
Is one such a name.
I see you.
And he was very deliberate. He wanted me to see that video.
A 2006 documentary featuring a young Iowa inmate named Brian.
Is that your name?
It is.
Recording.
It's why Louisville officers know his name
Hey Brian, how's it going?
when they finally find him.
You gonna smoke a cigarette outside? You have any weapons in your hand? No weapons on you?
He's coming out the door. Hold up. Can you keep your hands up for us?
Brian needs help, they conclude. Help a mental health hospital known as Centennial Peaks offers. Problem is, this night, it has only one person in intake, and she's worried about her safety. So officers opt for UC Health Long's Peak.
And this is how it works. Listen, this is how it works.
Not long after the officer drops him off and leaves, Brian does the same. While Brian has not been evaluated, the hospital staff did not view him as a threat to himself.
To accept this call, press 5 now.
By phone, Brian offers more detail.
I told the security guard, I'm like, hey man, nobody's talking to me, so I'm just gonna leave. He's like, I'll walk you off the property.
Just blew my mind.
Molly McDaniel learns of the release the next day.
It bothered me, and it really bothered me because he seemed like he really needed help. Like, he obviously needed help. He needed somebody.
Well, if I'm not under arrest, then what is all this then, huh?
2 days later, Brian comes to the Louisville Police Headquarters.
You're just gonna keep these on for the next day and not loosen them. Huh?
This time, officers try another hospital at Vista Adventist.
Right here.
And this time,
Let's have a seat real quick for me, all right?
they wait with him.
Until you talk to somebody, that's how it works.
What, spend hours all night next day? Waiting for somebody? Like I was trying to do at the other hospital?
Inside the room, we know hospital staff completes a court-ordered mental health evaluation. We also know when it's done, this hospital also lets him go.
And in this case, it highlights even when the police are bringing the person to the front door of the hospital, how difficult that can be.
Boulder's chief prosecutor, Michael Doherty, says this is when officers decided to take Brian to jail for those earlier 911 calls.
I mean, he was clearly going through some very significant issues and challenges.
Mr. Murray, your case is 21 CR 1941.
Inside a courtroom, prosecutors seek a $25,000 bond on a possible felony charge.
Mr. Murray is a significant danger to the community.
His defense asks for what's known as a PR bond, basically a no cash up front promise to return. We'll let Brian tell you what happens next.
Were you surprised when the judge in Boulder County let you go?
I'm not gonna lie, I was very shocked.
Okay, I want you to stay on the line with me, okay? And I'm gonna stay on the line with you, okay?
His full name, Brian Murray, and his is a story of a broken system with real consequences. In 4 days, he left 2 ERs, 1 jail, before finally doing this.
Oh my God. Okay. I've got help on the way, okay?
In need of cash to get out of the state, Brian Murray went to Denver and into the home of a man he knew. He left in that man's car.
Why do you think he's dead?
There's blood all over the floor.
and there's blood all over him.
Stu Habel's wife found Stu in their basement, battered and beaten.
I will never see the old Stu. All I see is his dead body. Yeah. That's the only image that I carry in my mind. Yeah.
Paige and Stu Habel knew Brian. He'd helped them move some things years prior, did some odd jobs for them too.
Did you ever see Brian's temper?
No, never saw his temper.
She didn't know he'd spent 20 years in prison, didn't know he'd spent most of those years untreated for a mental illness while living in solitary confinement, didn't know until we told her what had happened in the days leading up to her husband's murder.
If any one of a number of things happen along the way, this doesn't happen.
Right, right. I think that the system is hugely broken.
Brian agrees.
Do you think if they didn't release you that Stu would still be alive?
Absolutely, 100%.
In the days that followed, in the days before police found him,
Well, if I'm going down big, brother.
Brian called in more threats.
If you guys want a war, give it to you. Because I'm not going down easy.
In the end, however, he surrendered without a fight.
To that charge, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
He'll likely die in prison for killing Stu Habel.
60 years for him at the age of 41 is a life sentence.
But he did tell me this from his prison cell.
When I was at the hotel in Louisville, my brain was starting to get screwed up. Like, I know because I did 19 years in prison and I spent all those years in solitary, and I know what's up that's coming.
Brian Murray asked to be put in jail. Brian Murray asked to be hospitalized.
Paige Habel lost more than a husband last year.
I lost not only my partner, my sense of stability, my security, my safety, my home, and an innocent sense of trust. Daily, I see my views of the world I lived in changing dramatically. The system has let me down.
Let down by a system that let go of a man.
They had him in their custody and they let him go.